You know, the old days, to the victim. Okay? You know that. To the winner belong the spoils.
You may not realize this, but the 25th Amendment cannot, under any circumstances, remove a sitting president from office. Not at all. Now that may be a shock to you. So what does the 25th Amendment do? I'll show you, but first, what you're about to see is Mike Johnson, no more than 2 weeks following Trump's February 28th invasion of Iran. Take a look.
We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. Tonight, we have created a new award. We're going to do something we've never done before. We're going to honor him with a new award that we'll present annually from this point forward. But he is the suitable and fitting recipient of the first ever America First Award. We can think of no better title for what that is. We were talking about being on the edge, on the verge of the dawn of a new golden era in America. And my friends, that is exactly what we are in the middle of now, the new golden era, new golden age.
First, Mr. Johnson refused to check the president on the Iran war, after Trump had already begun the attack. Then Mike Johnson made up an award to give to the president, a man who is also covering up a child sex trafficking ring. And finally, Mikey called the times we're living in a golden age despite a failing economy and a hideous war. In fact, Mike Johnson was quite giddy, to say the least. And you guys can explain why to me in the comments, because I don't understand that. I mean, at this point, I'm waiting for Mike Johnson to grab his little pom-poms and then throw a little high kick. Now, I'm making this point because generally, no articles of impeachment reach the House floor for a vote without the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson's, approval. And this guy is not going to approve articles of impeachment when he and his beloved president are living, let's just say together, in a golden age. So we turn to Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. If you want to read it in full, I've placed the link in the description. Now, in order to use the 25th Amendment against the sitting president of the United States, the vice president and a majority of the president's cabinet must send a written declaration to two members of Congress, the Speaker of the House, currently Mike Johnson, and the President pro tempore of the Senate, currently Chuck Grassley. The declaration must state that the president is unable to carry out the powers and duties of the office. The moment that declaration is delivered, the vice president immediately becomes acting president. However, the president is not removed from office and remains the president in title. If the president does nothing, the vice president simply continues serving as acting president with full presidential authority. If the president disputes the declaration, the president sends a written declaration stating that they are able to serve and immediately regains presidential power. At that point, the vice president and a majority of the cabinet have 4 days to challenge the president's claim. If they do not act within 4 days, the president remains in power. If they do act within 4 days by sending another declaration, the vice president immediately becomes acting president again. Congress must then assemble within 48 hours, if not already in session, and has up to 28 days to determine the president's fitness. At this point, to keep the vice president as acting president, 2/3 of both houses must agree that the president is unable to serve. Otherwise, the president regains authority. However, at no time is the president removed from office under Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. This is American News Trust. I'm Steele Black. Please subscribe, like, comment, and hit the bell for updates. Thank you.